So IW, or Ike, as I call him, was a four-sport athlete letterman at Oglethorpe, and that was one of his proudest, most enthusiastic memories of Oglethorpe, as I remember him talking about it, which is really hard to do nowadays. I don't think you could play college-level sports. He played football, basketball, baseball, and actually, I just learned this the other day, track and field. He was the shot putter. But his most fond memory, and the one that he was sort of his red letter moment at Oglethorpe, was the year that the Oglethorpe football squad, where he played center both offense and defense, beat the undefeated, I think they were called the Georgia Tech Hurricane. It was the undefeated squad, and the only team in the country that could ever beat this squad was Oglethorpe. And Oglethorpe and IW, playing at both offense and defense, beat that squad. It was 7-6, so it was a pretty close game. I would say another one of his great, most treasured memories from Oglethorpe is that was where and when he met my grandmother, Lillian, for whom I am named, and began their lifelong love affair together. She was an Agnes Scott girl. And so it was a wonderful that was where their life began together, and is his memory of Oglethorpe. When he graduated from Oglethorpe and he was moving on to Oglethorpe, he had fallen in love with my grandmother, and they were very ready to get their life started together. He, in fact, had been drafted for baseball by the Chicago White Sox, believe it or not. And so he and my grandmother had a decision to make about whether they would pursue that career or go on to sort of settling down and raising their families. At that point in time, actually playing professional sports was sort of like running off to join the circus. And so I think IW's, my great-grandparents, IW's parents, were very conservative, religious parents, and they were not about to support them if they ran off to go play professional baseball. So being a people person, never met a stranger, Ike, he went into the insurance business. IW and Lillian moved back to Decatur, started having children, raising their family here, moved from the insurance business into the automobile business. I think at that point it was post-World War II. People were, we were a consumer country. He looked at the opportunity to see people buying cars and those. And so for him, it was a great economic opportunity to go into the car sales business until, it would have been in the early 1960s when Dad decided that he wanted to start his own company and go into the home building business. He knew he needed someone who could be his, I would call it his chief operating officer, someone who could help him manage contractors, manage relationships with property owners, and who better to do that but his father, IW, who had those kind of personal skills, was a great relationship person, but also really tough. He did not let anybody get away with cutting corners or wasting resources. So the two of them started the company together. Dad was the visionary, the strategist, and IW was the operations man. Dad likes to tell the stories at the end of every workday. Ike would go out onto the property sites and he would pick up all the nails that had been left behind or somebody hadn't used, or the small pieces of lumber that folks had thrown into the scrap pile, and pull it all back together and put it back in the pile and say, y'all need to use this again tomorrow. We're not wasting a dime. He used to say, I could live for 100 years on what you guys all throw away. So that would be sort of IW's role in the company for many years and part of the foundation of the success of the company. It was really important to our family to honor IW, Ike's experience and the grounding and the education that he received at Oglethorpe. It was part of his foundation, the foundation of his success in life. It was part of some of his greatest memories, and it was also part of where he met my grandmother. So it's a wonderful sort of, we wouldn't exist without Oglethorpe if you look at it that way. I think that he would be delighted and pleased, one, with the relationship with Oglethorpe that has helped transform the Eastlake community, but he would also be very tickled, and I would say tickled, about the idea that there will now be an academic building on the Oglethorpe campus named for him. He would have laughed, I think, to think that his legacy at Oglethorpe will be around academics, but I think it's very appropriate because what he took from Oglethorpe was not his sports. I mean, those were his gifts that he had anyway, and I'm sure Oglethorpe helped develop them, but what Oglethorpe gave him was the education, the grounding, and the relationships then to build his life together with Lillian off the playing field.